Evening and welcome to the League of Women Voters presentation of the Social Justice Alliance Hollywood trip. We are absolutely delighted that we have young folks who are actually interested in public service as well as civics. So with that, I'll let them introduce themselves. And you may ask questions during the presentation. Just raise your hand.
All right. Thank you, Ellen. I'm going to start. My name is Preston Benton. I'm the former president of the Social Justice Alliance. I just graduated from Ripon High School this past May. I'm going to hand things off to our advisor, Mr. Roost.
Yeah, I'm Brad Roost. I teach science at the high school here, and I've been the advisor of the Alliance since its creation.
I'm Cullen Gatsky. I've been a club member for a while now. I'm the vice president this year and going into next year. I will be a senior next year.
All right, let's get started. So this past June, we traveled to West Hollywood in California. This has been an ongoing adventure for the past 2 years. So we had a 2-year buildup and then a 1-week trip to West Hollywood. So our adventure started with the Social Justice Alliance at Ripon High School. The purpose of the trip was to deepen our understanding of civil rights, civic engagement, social justice, and civic responsibility. And our learning approach was to connect students' classroom knowledge through real-world experiences. So taking these acknowledgments of social indifferences and applying them to real-world experiences in the city of West Hollywood, where it's very diverse and there's a lot of opportunities.
So it started 2 years ago. John Erickson, who is the most recent mayor of West Hollywood, is a Ripon alum. He was honored as the Distinguished Alumni that year. We met with him as a group, and he offhandedly said, if anybody's ever in California, look me up. And so that got the ball rolling, and we turned it into a full-fledged trip for 12 students. So.
Yeah. So we're going to start off with local government and commerce. So I'll talk about this a little bit. Anybody in this room knows that I am somebody majoring in political science. So we got to visit the West Hollywood City Hall. This is where John Erickson serves on council. He's the former mayor of West Hollywood and the current council member representing his respective district in the city of West Hollywood. So we got to view things like the West Hollywood Public Library, where they have archives on LGBTQ and the history of West Hollywood and its importance in LGBTQ activism throughout the years, and creating a safe space of love and hope and authenticity and courage. So here we are in John Erickson's office, and then we also got a tour up to the roof, where we were unfortunately locked out and had to wait for maintenance to come unlock the door. We got to visit the LA County Board of Supervisors, which, fun fact, is the only county board in the United States to host a all-female board. We got to meet with Lindsay P. Horvath. She represents, so LA County has a population of 10 million people. So each district is 2.5, 3 million-ish people. So
Wisconsin is less than 5 million people, so LA County alone is more than twice the size of Wisconsin. So yeah. These 5 women represent 10 million people.
Wow.
Yeah, so their pieces of legislation and policy are critical to LA County. And I think when we were there, they were discussing, what were they discussing at the board meeting?
I don't remember.
So we had a picture of the agenda, but it's not in here.
It was televised.
We did get a special shout out at the LA County Board meeting. We were recognized by the board. This is Lindsay P. Horvath's dog. They recognize animals in LA. So they brought a dog out, and that was their honorable dog for the meeting. And then we got to go to the roof of the LA County Board building. It feels like every building we were in, we were on the roof at some point. We did not get locked out this time, though. So, did you have something in?
Sorry.
Yeah.
I don't have a question. Is there any way to make it a little bit louder?
No.
Yeah, of course.
I said, perhaps.
Let me test them now and see if it works.
Hello? Is this louder? Hello?
Or do you just need us?
We can just talk louder. Does that work?
It's not much better.
I'm not sure.
I don't need it blaring, but maybe it's the concert I went to last night.
We can talk louder too.
Todd said 0.
All right, go ahead.
All right, I'll let you talk about APM terminals.
Yeah, when we started organizing this trip, we had discussed the possibility of touring the oil fields of LA because it's kind of unique that they have oil fields right in the center of LA County. That we were not able to for a number of reasons, so somebody else came up with the idea of touring APM terminals. So LA, the Port of LA is one of the largest ports in the world, so they get hundreds of thousands of shipping containers every year, and it's a logistical nightmare to organize all these containers coming and going, the ships. There we go. So APM Terminals is one of the largest companies in that area that handles the inflow and outflow of these ships and shipping containers. I feel like they said like 1.4 containers a year that they send out. But it's all automated. There's hardly anybody on the ground. All the machines are automated. They're all GPS coordinated. So the machines will go pick up a container off a ship. They will put it on a semi or a train. They don't have people operating like drivers operating. It's all pre-programmed, and so for safety reasons, it was actually pretty impressive. So.
And as far as we know, everything is eco-friendly. Their goal is to be completely green by the year 2030. Is it just 2030? Yeah. And we discussed federal and state grants and loans, and they said even with the impact of budgeting and the current state of the economy, they're still on track to reach completely green by the year 2030, which I think will make them the first port in the United States to be a completely green trade port.
Yeah. The lady who gave the presentation grew up, this was in San Pedro, she grew up in the area and remembers looking out across the bay and not being able to see like the horizon some days because of the smog. And she said in the last 25 years, as these companies have become more green and shifted to electric, she can see further and further every year. So she's seen firsthand the difference it can make.
Here's a picture of Lil and Brutus. They unfortunately could not attend this meeting. But this is what the cranes look like at the LA port. These are the cranes that go over the ship, receive the containers, bring them on shore. And I'm not too sure, maybe in the next slide, no. But it's a machine that picks up the container, and we talked about this, drives it to the corrective spot, and it's completely pre-programmed and automated, and there's nobody behind the scenes. It's all on its
Like
own.
as far as you can see, there's different companies with cranes picking up and putting down.
So is it an intermodal system in which they pick things up and then they put them on trains or
Yeah.
trucks? So
Trains
it's
or trucks.
intermodal?
Yeah.
Okay.
And we asked why not, for the East Coast, why not go through the Panama Canal and just go up the East Coast? They said it's still more efficient to unload onto trucks and trains and drive across the U.S. So.
Next, we have the Los Angeles Conservancy. Do you want to talk about this a little bit more?
Yeah, so the Conservancy is not a nature conservancy. This is to conserve the buildings, the historic buildings in downtown Los Angeles. We got a tour of a few different buildings. The biggest one was the public library. It's a very historic building. I think on the next slide there's pictures. Yeah, as you can see, the left and right pictures are from the library. Huge center portion of the building that used to be where their main counters were, where people would check out books. Big murals, very historic looking building. And then we toured a number of other buildings. The one in the middle everybody thought looked like Hogwarts. And then we took a trolley ride down the hill and eventually walked and toured probably 3 or 4 different buildings.
Yeah, so the history of the building in the middle, there was an architect and he wanted to construct a building of which he thought the future would look like. So it was, what year was it, like 1930 or somewhere along those lines. He built this building thinking this is what the 21st century would look like. So according to people in 1930, this is what the year 2025 looks like. Not the same. And then the trolley thing was interesting because before there were cars and whatnot, people had to go grocery shopping, but they lived at the top of the hill in Los Angeles. So they used the trolley to get up and down the hill. And so that was their source of transportation back in, 1910?
Right. And it's a counterweight system where one trolley goes down, the weight of the other one pulls it up and down. And so every time one trip goes up, another trip is coming down. So.
Next we have LGBT plus rights and culture. So our first stop was the One Nation Gay and Lesbian Archives at USC. It is a building on its own branch, and it's a building completely filled with archives relating to gay and lesbian culture. And so we had the opportunity to actually work with the director for a little bit and organize archives that are stored here in the facility. And at the end, he gave us all the opportunity to go onto the shelf and take a book home with us. So I took a book relating, what was it? It was Education and the Foundation of LGBTQ Rights and Making Schools Safer.
He was very knowledgeable. He was very enthusiastic about it. They call it the One Archives. One was a publication dating back, I believe, to the 40s or 50s that they would publish, and often their publication would get shut down. People or the police would destroy their printing abilities, but for a little while it was an underground publication just promoting LGBT culture in Los Angeles at the time. So,
yeah. On the background of this picture where he's holding a Wisconsin beer koozie, you can see every copy of the One Archive magazine that they have released since the year that they started. So they talked a little bit about transporting these magazines. They had to take them to Canada, or no, how did they transport them into Canada? They took them up to New York and had to illegally take them across the river that connects, I think, what lake is it? It connects to the Niagara Falls, that's all I know. So they took it on a boat and they sailed it across, and that's how they released the One Nation archive magazines into Canada prior to LGBTQ plus rights. So when you put that into perspective, you can go on to social media and you can follow the LGBTQ plus page. You can follow any human rights organization that you want. But it was maybe 70, 80 years ago, you couldn't read a magazine without having to illegally transport it into another country.
or being at risk of
Imprisonment.
arrested or,
Yeah. And then we visited the June Mazer Lesbian Archives. Do you want to talk about this one a little bit?
Yeah, this was a smaller archive, like in terms of space, but floor to ceiling boxes. They said historically they tried to collect anything a lesbian had touched. That's how they put it. But they documented anything with local, state, national, even international notable lesbians, lesbian culture, and they had the entire set of uniforms for one of the women's baseball leagues when the men stopped playing baseball during the war. The women took over, so they have an entire team's worth of uniforms still from that time period. I forget which team it was, but yeah, they just invited the students to open a box and explore, so everybody just kind of squatted in the aisle and started exploring different things, and they had a list of topics that you could find or people, and they were very helpful. Like, yeah, I think that is in this box or this, so.
Yeah. On this side, you can see the entire SJA with, what was her name? I cannot remember. She ran the archives, correct? Or the lady on the very far right.
Right.
Yeah, she runs the archives, and they have 2 internships, I believe, from USC, so they are also an off-branch of the USC. And then we visited the One Archive Drag History in the city of West Hollywood, so this is also attached to the One Archive Collections. They have a spot on the strip of West Hollywood that the city of West Hollywood pays for them to reserve. And every so often they'll swap out the exhibits. And so because we were there during Pride Month, we had the opportunity to learn about the history of drag. On the picture on the right, we are standing with the guy who runs the exhibits. And at the top, you can see the lyrics to Pink Pony Club, which feels appropriate. And then behind Cullen, on the left, you can see a drag outfit. What's it called?
Costume.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So civil rights and history. So first, we visited the Museum of Tolerance. This is a history in southwestern LA. It is completely devoted, it's 7 levels of history devoted to World War II. And on the basement level, so you walk through a spiral staircase, and it's a ramp, not a staircase. It's a ramp that connects all 7 levels. And as you walk down the ramp, there is pictures of current Holocaust survivors. And so you're face to face with these survivors. When we got to the bottom of the staircase, we were confronted with a portrait of Hitler. And he was talking to an audience. And as we continued through this exhibit, it was a miniature scale version of Berlin, Germany in World War II. And all it was propaganda, and it was hard to watch. I'm a little sad thinking about it, but at the end of the tour, you were confronted with the gates of
A gas chamber.
a gas chamber. It was modeled after Auschwitz. That was the one. And you had to pick which tunnel you went through. So there were 2 tunnels. One was able-bodied, and the other one was others. Both of them led into the gas chamber, but in a real concentration camp, able bodies would have been put to work. They would have walked through, gotten their uniforms, their numbers, they would have given up everything that they had on them, and they would have been put to work until they died. The tunnel with everybody else went straight to the gas chamber. There was nothing between the tunnel or the gas chamber. So on this slide, you can see a model of Hitler's office. This is what it looked like during World War II. And then on the left, it looks like a painting, but it's a 3D model of Auschwitz. So standing in front of it, you can look around, and it's portrayed to show just how large Auschwitz was. It was the biggest concentration camp during World War II. And I believe they said they had about 40,000 concentration camps scattered throughout Europe at the time.
And
Now-
basically every small community had some sort of jail or camp outside it that they would imprison
Yeah.
Jews and other.
And they killed an average of how many per day?
They said
6,000.
6,000 a day.
Yeah.
Next, we visited the California African American Museum. We were lucky enough to visit on Juneteenth. So there were exhibits set up, they had speakers, they had panelists. So we got to see our collections of the African American culture. Maybe on this next slide. Yep.
It's set up as I guess to me it wasn't sort of a typical museum. It was set up more as like a 5-part art gallery of contemporary black artists. So everyone had it was very personal in every place. So it wasn't like a history museum or a natural science museum. It was it's like a very large art gallery dedicated to contemporary black artists.
What I thought was interesting was in the middle of this slide, you can see an outhouse. And on the inside, it was papers and it was photos of the civil rights movement during 1960. So you poked your head into the outhouse and looked around, and it was the history of the civil rights movement. There was also one piece that I just kind of stared at for a couple minutes. It was an inflated version of a slave trade list and the buyings. And in the frame at the bottom, there was real slave chains as a frame. That was the frame, it was slave chains. And I asked one of the workers, are these real or are these just for show? And they said, no, those were used to enslave somebody. I think I'm going to let Mr. Roos talk about the science portion of the trip.
I told the students going into it that if we were going to go to West Hollywood, we had to see the La Brea Tar Pits. And they all said, what are the La Brea Tar Pits? Surprising number of people who, when I tell the story, they don't know what the tar pits were. So I was into prehistoric animals since I was very young, so I had read about the tar pits since I was probably 8, so I'm like, okay, we're gonna go. And by the time we had to keep sort of changing the schedule, so the tar pits getting pushed further into the week, and so they insisted that we go, but they kind of jokingly, it kept being like, oh, you're stupid tar pits, and they offered us to dig a hole and throw some rotisserie bones into the hole so I could get my tar pits, but it was very cool. Outside is sort of comically underwhelming because it's these enclosures with what looks like somebody has dumped asphalt on the ground. But we did get to see some of the live or active excavation and the museum, which I think you can see in the background of the left picture and the inside on the right picture. It was very cool, just the millions of specimens that they pulled out of the tar pits in over 100 years. One wall is just over 400 skulls of dire wolves. They have unlike a lot of excavations, whether it's anthropology or archaeology rather, or paleontology, usually it's just a small portion of the animal that survives. Here, it was almost always intact ground sloth, an entire camel, an entire mammoth, because they just fell in the tar and got instantly preserved, and yeah, it was just very cool. So, and the kids were very excited for me. So,
we visited the Griffith Observatory. We went a total of 4 to 6 times to watch the sunrise sunset over LA. The picture on the left was the very first time that we visited the Griffith Observatory. Just a small group of us went. We crammed into a van at 5 o'clock in the morning, and up the mountain we went.
so it's still an active observatory. You can't, we were there too early, you have to pay to get in, we were there hours before they opened, but you can see the Hollywood sign, it's very close to it, and it's just a very cool, I don't know if it's Art Deco, but it's a very cool historic looking building. You can walk all the way around it, and copper domes, and just be able to see, you can see downtown LA and downtown West Hollywood, the Hollywood sign, like you're up on the hill overlooking the whole area, so.
Next we have Hollywood, actual Hollywood. So we visited Warner Brothers Studios. This was our little quote-unquote treat for the trip and all the work that we had put forth into going. On the right, you can see Cullen freaking out over Central Perk. We got to visit the set of Friends. And on the left, we have the entire SJA on the Welcome to Warner Brothers Studios. We have a couple of theater geeks in Social Justice Alliance, so they got to see the behind-the-scenes work of Warner Brothers and how movies and TV shows and scripts and audio clips are made, so that was quite the experience for them at least. Walk of Fame, that's me with Shrek. And then we visited a couple of things. So we saw the Walk of Fame, we saw the Chinese Theater, we saw Jimmy Kimmel Live. We did not get to actually see Jimmy Kimmel Live, but we wandered up to a roof over the strip of downtown, the strip of, is it Sunset? It's Sunset Boulevard. Yeah. The Academy Museum of Motion Pictures. This one was interesting because it had integrations of not just social justice, but motion picture and the history of social justice throughout motion picture. So we got to learn about famous African Americans who have played a pivotal role in the progression in the movie industry, women, the LGBTQ. We got to learn about directors, producers, actors who have the first to win Academy Awards. And we got to see real props from the Barbie movie and Beauty and the Beast, and learn about, what was her name?
Barbie.
No. What was her name? Caroline.
Yeah, the exhibit, that specific exhibit covered 3 different movies. Barbie and Beauty and the Beast, the live action, and Anna Karenina. And just a little side story, when we were at the tar pits in the museum, we came around the corner and they had a live, like, scientists actually working on, like, behind glass, but scientists actually working on fossils, and I was kind of geeking out about it, and one of our officers, Carly, was with me, and she was kind of laughing at me, but then we get to the Barbie, because she's one of the theater geeks, we come around the corner, they have a mock of a design studio for, like, a movie for the Barbie, and she started geeking out about it, and I'm like, that's exactly, now you know how I felt, so, yeah, it was cute.
Next, we have Santa Monica Pier. We spent, I think, 2 nights at the beach, both times cutting it short to sunset, like the last hour of the day we were at the beach. We wandered the pier for a little bit, we got to swim in the ocean. Never again will I want the salt water to do what it did to me. It was interesting. It was cold, but it was fun spending time at the beach with the people that I got to travel across the country with. And so with that, we want to give a special thanks to the following organizations. So the Ripon Area School District, the Steelworkers Union, the Ripon League of Women Voters, Kat Griffith, the Like Families, Bettina V, Plouffe, the First Congregational Church, the Ripon Area Community Theater, Ripon New Kiwanis, Ripon Rotary, the Webster's Foundation, Walsworth, the Green Lake Democrats, and the Fond du Lac Area Women's Fund. And with that, does anybody have any questions about this trip?
Just a comment, it sounds like it was wonderful.
It was.
Yeah, we had a couple, like, we stopped a couple times to sort of, everybody shared what they were getting out of the trip, what their favorite thing was, so those were always very emotional meetings. One at the very end, at the beach, I think was probably the most impactful. So we started the trip on Father's Day and ended it on my birthday, so they made a point to make it special for me, so they had a cake for me at the beach at the end. And, yeah.
We sat in a circle on beach towels. I was in wet socks. I didn't realize how high the tide was. And we went in a circle. We talked about our favorite part of the trip, what was most impactful, our favorite part of planning this trip, what we took away, the organizational skills, the communication piece, the fundraising piece.
Yeah, keep in mind, we had been fundraising for 20 months, we think we calculated, and raised over $15,000 in the process. So we raised about, on average, about $750 a month over that time period, which is not easy for a school group of about 15 to 20 students. And given the nature of the club, it's not easy to raise a lot of money. So the students did amazing work raising the money and very few, the cost per student kept coming down every time we'd fundraise, and to the point where some students didn't have to pay anything to go due to their situations, and other students only had to pay a little bit amount. So it really worked out well. So.
I think one of the more impactful pieces was while we were driving down the streets of LA, blaring Taylor Swift and Britney Spears and whatever else, a couple of the students were making comments about how they had never felt so safe to live but to stay in a community where they felt appreciated and seen. We were leaving our hotel and we literally took a right, and to the right was this big mural with pride flags and LGBTQ plus leaders and activists. And one of them made a remark, they were like, "You don't see that every day." And I was like, "Well, here you do." So it put into perspective just how important it is for communities to appreciate the minorities and the people that really get the wheels turning in a community, right? Make things different, make things diverse, right? It's that sense of inclusion that so many students, I think, had a lack of understanding existed in this world. And so they were able to go to LA and experience that inclusion and that diversity and that level of love. And now they get to bring it back to Ripon and they get to share with their neighbors and their friends and their
We had some students that had never been on an airplane, some that had never left the state of Wisconsin, some who just didn't have a lot of exposure, travel much, and it was just very meaningful to take these students, very deserving group of students, to California for this experience and just take them to a place where they're accepted and they didn't have to worry about slurs and whatnot. So.
Yeah. Ellen?
So you answered one of my questions, which was, did you feel safe? My second question is, could you just do a high-level recap of the local government structure? I believe they have county commissioners, we have county supervisors. There, as John was mayor of West Hollywood, they have a different structure than we do. Could you compare and contrast those for us?
We talk about the mayor.
Yeah, you want me to talk about this? So I'll start local. So there are a total of 36 communities throughout LA County, all of which have their own ordinances and bylaws and structure to how they operate. More specifically, the city of West Hollywood, they have a part-time council but a full-time administrative office. So similar to Ripon, but their council has I believe they have a total of 5 members and a mayor, so a total of 6 total people all across the board.
I think they've only been incorporated for like 40 or 60 years.
I think this was their 40th anniversary. This year was their 40th anniversary.
Prior to that, they were just an unincorporated area of LA County.
Yeah. So the city of West Hollywood runs their elections a little interesting. What they do is they rotate mayors. They don't elect a mayor. So every year they elect a new council person or keep the same one depending on what the voters think. And they rotate through the council and that's how they pick their mayor. So John was, 3 years ago, he would have been the mayor pro temp, which made him the mayor the following year. And now he's put back on council. So each year they pick a pro temp mayor, which I think they reconstructed it to vice mayor and then a mayor. And then the vice mayor takes over.
If he stays on the council, every 4 years, he'll spend a year being the mayor.
Which, for those who don't know, John Erickson is now running for the 16th district Senate seat of State Senate of California. And he's been doing great. He raised, I think, $3,000 in one day while we were there for his campaign. I believe. That's what I heard. I don't know if that's true, but that's the number I heard from.
He's very busy.
Very busy guy. When you get up to the county level, they are full-time county supervisors. Lindsay P. Horvath, for example, has 7 field offices throughout LA County. Not even a U.S. congressional member has that many offices. I think Glenn Grothman has a total of 1. And then they have 1 office in the LA County Board. And then each year they elect a new county executive as a board, or I don't know if it's considered an executive, but a president to run the meetings and to be that sense of executor. They are considered supervisors, not commissioners. And then they do have full-time staff in each office. I think Lindsay Horvath has anywhere from 50 to 100 employees working for her throughout LA County. We got to tour her office. It was pretty interesting. She has a secretary, she has somebody in charge of policy, she had somebody in charge of communications, so they are full-time administrators when it comes to that level of government. I hope I answered your question.
You did, yeah.
Something interesting about the city of West Hollywood, it is a quarter of the size of Ripon with 10 times the population. Their population is about 70,000 people.
So
And it's a quarter of the size of Ripon.
Wow.
area. Yeah,
Geographically, yes. Another fun fact about West Hollywood, we learned this when we were eating there. They have a restriction. They are not allowed to have fast food places in the city of West Hollywood. They completely support local businesses. So when we had a meeting with Mayor Chelsea Byers and Councilmember John Erickson, they kind of discussed the economic portion of the city of West Hollywood. And they talked about the importance of local. And to them, local diners, local restaurants, shops, I mean, I think to get to a Walmart, you had to drive to Beverly Hills, which isn't far, but it just exemplifies that West Hollywood is a completely local city.
Well, and because the cost of living is high in that area, West Hollywood was, I think, one of the first, if not the first community in the area to increase their minimum wage to an actual livable wage.
I want to say it's 20 some odd dollars an hour. That's the minimum wage. And I think the standard of living was
Over 100,000.
$120,000 was the standard of living in the city of West Hollywood. So when we got there, we looked at the prices for like a burger and fries, and we were like, whoa. But then in the planning, we knew that was gonna happen, but we didn't know how real it was until we were in that moment.
How much was it?
For a burger and fries, I wanna say it was about $17 without a drink. So we obviously had the funds to pay it, but it was interesting to compare that because I think you can go to, for instance, Pastimes and get it for what, $10, $7, something like that? Burger and fries, yeah.
10 or 12.
10 or 12, okay, my bad, it's been a while since I've eaten there. Any other questions? I saw in the back, your hand up first. Yep.
Was homelessness a problem there?
I'm happy you asked that because speaking of government, LA, everything is connected right there. So we had that conversation with Mayor Byers. To get from Ripon to Oshkosh, you have to drive through 20 minutes worth of cornfields. When you're driving between communities in LA, you know you're leaving the city, the corporated city you're in, when you hit the roads, because the roads will become bumpy and you will start seeing homelessness. The city of West Hollywood has implemented policies and has budgeted to allow, I believe they're transforming a old apartment building or an old hotel into a homeless shelter. As far as the city of West Hollywood goes, they don't have a homeless problem. And a lot of cities within LA County don't have a homeless problem. It is LA County itself that has a homeless problem. So the unincorporated areas in LA, that's where most homelessness occurs. That's where, like, between Beverly Hills and West Hollywood, the architecture would change. The roads would stay the same, the people would look different, but leaving Beverly Hills and encountering an unincorporated area, you could visually tell that the economic status was lower, there was homelessness, the roads were bumpy. It's those little things that you notice, but that's how you know you're leaving, those cities. And it was the same thing with like Burbank and Pasadena.
And West Hollywood is not just about housing them. They have a lot of programs to help with all sorts of social needs and economic needs. So helping find jobs and mental health advocacy.
Yeah, they have a lot of ground agencies that LA County has set to help people get on track to live a good life. So, for example, there's one agency, a part of LA County, that helps you find a job or helps you find a house loan and gets you a home or a car loan or things like that. So they have those sources for those people.
You have a question?
Not a question, but a commentary. Having lived in Orange County, California for 30 years and taught kindergarten in Garden Grove, California for 20 years, I am impressed how much I've learned from you gentlemen tonight that I did not know or was not exposed to or did not realize. Or maybe 30 years ago, it wasn't that relevant as it is relevant now nationwide. So thank you for taking the trip and thank you for teaching us tonight about California.
Yeah, thank you.
One thing I noted going back through the pictures and the agenda, I think we had 17 different stops along the way over the course of the week. And the list of things that we could have also stopped and visited is probably just as much, if not more. There were places, other museums, even the stadium, all sorts of places, Expo Park, that we could have gone to. We just didn't have the time to hit it all. So there's a lot of talk about if we come back, we should do this, or as individuals, if you visit, and it goes for any school trip like that. You get a touch or kind of a taste of what it's like, and hopefully, I'm hoping a lot of these students will have an opportunity to go back and explore more. So
I'd like to add a little bit more. My husband's cousin, Joffrey Behrens, had an address of his residence in North Hollywood. And I never understood, does each district have its own zip code, like North Hollywood, West Hollywood? We've been to this cousin's home in North Hollywood, but we never understood the whole geographic region. It was just so immense.
Yeah, so because they're recognized as cities within the county, even though they neighbor each other and the houses touch each other's backyards, they do have their own zip codes. So they are considered their own areas. Incorporated. Yes, incorporated. So they do have their own zip codes. Because it goes to that respective, I don't know how to put it, area, district, I guess I don't.
Postal region. And
Postal region, yeah.
How are you doing coming back from that kind of, where you can breathe and be safe, and you come back to an area that is largely conservative, and now with the stuff going on in the federal government, closing the doors to all kinds of being different, how are you doing as you come back?
To be blunt, horrible.
Yeah.
I remember when we got back, Colin and I went, we had to go to Target because I needed to get stuff for my dorm room. We were driving down 41? From Ripon to Oshkosh. 44, thank you. And I was like, it's so weird. It's just all corn. There's no buildings, there's no apartment buildings, there's no skyscrapers, there's nothing. It's just corn. And as far as the politics of it goes, when we were there, we didn't see yard signs. We didn't see things like Harris 2024 or Trump 2028 or anything like that. We saw support and love of community. When we were there, politics was not a discussion that a lot of people seemed to engage with. I think I overheard one political conversation the entire time I was there. And it was a man talking about how peaceful the protesters were. And how he saw it firsthand and how peaceful it was. And then I think back, we get to Wisconsin and we can turn on the TV and the media is talking about how violent it is out there and how all of LA is burning down. When in fact, the protest was maybe the size of downtown Ripon. Compared to LA, that's 1% geographically of the entire city. How do I put this into words? Growing up in rural Wisconsin has always been an interesting set of standards, especially identifying as LGBTQ, with the way that our local representatives talk about us, right? Now, not local, I should say, the state, federal level. You mentioned conservatives, and conservatives tend to not side with the LGBTQ. I don't want to say all conservatives, but the vast majority. And when we were there, the way that their elected representatives spoke about the LGBTQ, they just had the utmost respect for these members. They didn't, I don't want to say praised them, but they expressed the fact that they are still working members of our society, right? They provide, they work and they put meals on the table every day, right? That's their goal in life. It's not to, brainwash people and do those sorts of things. So when we got back, I looked at, what did I look at? I was reading an article and they were trying to overturn gay marriage. And so it's just interesting, right? How geographical differences can cause difference in ideals and a set of standards for members of your community.
From my perspective as an educator, I guess for me, it was very nice to see my students accepted at that level because I could sense their ease. They didn't have their guards up or their shields up like they normally do. But for me, it just reinforced that for every student that comes to my classroom, I need to provide a safe space for them to be themselves because I have all students coming through my room. So it needs to be somewhere that everybody can feel safe and accepted. So that just reinforced it.
I would like to say that being in West Hollywood in an environment is very much a culture shock. I've moved around for a lot of my life, and seeing that many people in one place, so much transition, so much coming and going, but it felt different, and it felt to me, it felt very welcoming and very safe to see to not see blatant like opinions of other people just kind of everywhere, and it felt very, I could breathe, like Bruce said. It felt very safe, I guess. And coming back here, it kind of gave me hope a little bit, like to see it that can be here. It's gonna take a lot more, but I think eventually it can happen. I think change can happen, and stuff like that's the first steps, and I hope it can trickle down and continue.
And that's one of the objectives of our alliance, is to create that environment or change or safe space.
And what Cullen just said was the exact goal of the trip, right? To bring back that thought process to rural Wisconsin, right? Take that idea of equality and inclusion and bring it somewhere where we don't feel that sense of appreciation, right? So we can spread that love, we can spread that authenticity with our neighbors and our friends and our family members, right? That was the goal. And we did just that.
I'm moved by what this young man just said, because we lived on Oahu in Hawaii from January 56 till July of 59. And that was a real education. Not to put down Ripon Public Schools or Fond du Lac County one-room country schools, which I graduated from. So a new experience with a new culture of ethnicity is really the only education you can hope for, because it'll prepare you for the rest of your life.
And I know one of our students noted, I think after touring the APM terminals, like, there are businesses that are committed to green business. So it's not because they're being forced to by policy. They are committed to do this regardless of what the political climate is. There are communities dedicated to protecting all minorities, and so he was sort of pointing out, like, this exists, we can create this elsewhere, but we know it exists, we know it's achievable, so.
And I think going off of what you said, going into like the only true way to get education is to be in there, that's like truly wholeheartedly what I believe is you gave us this experience to go to West Hollywood and see this. That truly is one of the best things that you can give, is hands-on knowledge, and seeing the culture and being in it. It's truly a different experience than sitting in class and having it told to you. It's a very different experience, and it's kind of jarring when you first get there. You're like, wow, this happens in a place, like this exists here, while I'm like, my family and the rest of the people are here in this different time. It's like two different worlds, and I think truly you letting us go there, we can bring a piece of that to the rural Midwest and get out just a little bit into this little stubborn town, I guess.
Would this ever have happened if you hadn't had John back here?
No.
Yeah.
He is a former student of mine. I'm so proud of him.
Yeah. So he and the other chaperone, Katie, have been longtime friends, and we all work collaboratively to create the daily schedules, where we're going to go, all the different places we wanted to see. Because you take 14 people and 14 different opinions, how do you figure out where you're going to go when? But I think it turned out to be a very good cross-section of, like we said, civic responsibility, social justice, civil rights, and of course science.
I was going to say, and science.
I feel like we don't give John enough credit. Him and his office team, they did great work for us. Bruce and I wrote an itinerary for almost 2 years and kept changing things and adjusting things and changing the hotel and the car rental. I think it was within 24 hours of us sending John that itinerary, he had the whole thing flipped, completely organized by geographic location. He had a hotel for us at a good price. He had a car rental place. He had food. Like, we had our restaurants planned out. And so that sense of organization was truly provided by John, because I don't know LA, like, geographically. I couldn't tell you where the nearest In-N-Out is, but
Yeah, we had a virtual meeting with him and staff members. There were 3 staff members, and he just kept firing out these ideas, like, let's see if we can get them in here, let's see if we can. So we got to, like, the APM terminals, they don't have school groups come through every day. Like, we're one of the few groups that got to see what they do behind the scenes. Certainly not another group from Wisconsin touring their facility, but a lot of the places we got to go in deeper, I guess, than normal because of the connections that John made, and just the people we got to meet that normally don't give tours. Like, they're high-ranking people, they sort of came down to our level, if you will, or whatever, and gave us first-hand tour of what their business or their organization or the space was intended for, so.
all right. Any last questions?
The only thing I feel uncomfortable with in your whole presentation is putting down cornfields. I grew up with cornfields. I now am surrounded by cornfields on Olden Road. But what I really feel good about my life is what I did in the 60 years of not living with a cornfield. So, but once you live with a cornfield, it'll stick with you, and you'll appreciate it regardless of your age, or your church, or your things, so.
Well, thank you. Well, thank you all. Thank you. I see a lot of League voters, League of Women voters here, so thank you guys for your generous donation, and the Green Lake Democrats and Marty Farrell, thank you. This wouldn't have been made possible without literally every single person in this room, so thank you all for your hard work and dedication and sending us on our way.
It would have been impossible without your willing to do the work. You guys did a fabulous job. Thank you for bringing it back to us.
Thank you. All right.